So, Bulelani, thank you so much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership.
Yes.
But
Not,
before we start, Bulelani, can you please share a little bit about your background? Where did you grow up?
no. So thank you so much, Dr. Nick, for having me on the platform. So I grew up in a township in South Africa called Tembisa, rather in Gauteng. In Tembisa, raised by a single mother. I am the youngest of two. I've got an older brother. It's about a 10 or 12-year gap between the two of us. And I think, that's where we sort of grew up. So I grew up in a place in Tembisa in a section called the Mganza section. We then much later on moved to a different side of Tembisa with my mother called Hospital View. And I guess that's where I found my roots and was able to establish myself within the community as a young boy growing up into a teenager, into a young man. And that is also the same community where I started my entrepreneurial journey in.
And Bulelani, can you tell us what was your dream career when you grew up?
Yeah, no, I mean, my dream career, actually, interestingly enough, is I wanted to be a sneaker designer, like, a shoe designer, strange enough, because I used to carry this exam book, and we would start with like pencil wherever I went, and I'd scribble out different designs of different shoes. And in my head, I sort of thought of myself designing shoes for your Nikes, Adidas, and all these different brands, Not too sure what the book is. I'm sure I have it somewhere because I'm very good at keeping stuff.
And if I may ask you, what is your favorite shoe or brand?
My actual favorite shoe brand, right, is there's a local brand called 4G. I like that brand. And then my other favorite shoe brand is Nike, but specifically the Jordan 1s by Michael Jordan. So those are like my two favorite shoe brands, yeah.
Ah, great. And Bulelani, who inspired you in your early days?
My early days, man, I was definitely inspired by, my mother. And I think that inspiration came as a result of, seeing her and how hard she worked to provide us the life that we had, regardless of what it looked like and the circumstances and the challenges and difficulty. And I think for me, the sort of inspiration has sort of moved and changed over the years. Today, as a father of two boys, I'm really inspired by my sons, not just to create a better life for them, but to create a better environment that they can live in, so that they're also able to, create an impactful lives for themselves as they grow into their old age.
Now, Bulelani, today you're enabling tens of thousands of entrepreneurs across the country in almost all South African townships. Yeah. Looking back over your career, was there a turning point where things could have gone different?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of them. I think for me, when you sort of consider the fact that when I went into formal entrepreneurship, my highest academic grade at the time when I went into formal entrepreneurship was grade 9, which would be standard 7, right? From there, I was taken into FET College, which is a further education and training college, and the minimum entry was grade 9. Unfortunately, the money ran out and I had to drop out, right? Then I started my formal business from that point, from that point onwards, right? So I think for me, when I sort of think about the many turning points, there was a point where I was under pressure to get a job and I could have been in that space digging electrical trenches. And then you sort of look at when I started the business, it didn't start off and become a success. I mean, it took about 7 years to get the business off the ground. I mean, for the first 7 to 8 years, making anywhere between 180 to about 380 Rand a month, on a consistent deficit, at the end of each and every month, always on a minus, 4,000, 5,000 Rand minus. So always, chasing the next month to cover up the previous month's bills, and all of that stuff. And I think there was a turning point even there, with that particular business, because for me to sort of get to the place where I'm working with supporting township entrepreneurs is because I believe it's because of the experiences that I've had. I mean, I've sold stationery packs, I've transported school kids, I've sold fat cakes, I've sold different things, right? I've done a bit of this and a bit of that, for me to get to a point where I feel like and I believe that this is now my purpose.
Right. So, what would you say is driving you today?
Totally driven by, creating South Africa, where small businesses are acknowledged, creating an enabling environment for these small businesses to be able to access market and resources. So I'm definitely driven by, by small businesses, township businesses, and putting them on the map, or rather helping them, access opportunities that will put them on the map because they're doing extremely well for themselves in various parts of the country and various communities. So I'm really inspired by that. As a result of that, we're looking at exporting these amazing South African innovators into other parts of the world so that the world knows what South Africa truly has to offer.
Now, Bulelani, looking into the future, what, and I know it's a big question, but what does the future of leadership mean to you? And what is it we have to do more to build more future leaders, more future entrepreneurs?
I think for me, the future of leadership to me, means better governance, higher levels of accountability, and really just having the right people in the right positions, right? Who will be able to not just champion for their own self-interest, but will then also then champion for the interest of country. I think that sort of mindset that we need to have more than anything is country first. And more than anything, I think even as business leaders, we need to ask ourselves a question, how does, as part of our vision, how does the growth of our companies affect our stakeholders? And our stakeholders, namely being the country, our community, and then the immediate business stakeholders, employees, SARS, and all other business partners, shareholders, and the sort. And I think when we sort of start to apply that sort of cap and mindset, it then changes how we lead and the type of people that we put in leadership positions, and the type of programs that we actually go out and support. So Nelson Mandela Day, for instance, doesn't come as a knee-jerk reaction where we become reactionary. Future of leadership to me looks like us taking up that sort of mindset of, impacting our communities, our people in a positive manner as an everyday attitude.
And Bulelani, what is it that we have to do more to develop future leaders?
No, man, I think for me, what we need to do most importantly is, we need to support young people. I think when you look at township high schools, you go now to township high schools. I mean, they are bloated, number one. Number two, even about the fact that they are bloated, leadership is not one of the things or qualities or the trainings that they get exposed to, nor do they then get trained on. And I think it starts at a high school level. I mean, I remember in my high school days, we used to yearn to want to be a prefect or to be head of the class, you know. Now it's no longer the case. And I think stuff like that at a grassroots level are very important. I think also from a sports and recreational aspect, you go into townships where there you don't even have parks anymore where kids can play soccer, form teams, because it's through sports as well that you're able to find yourself, your leadership voice as well, and become this confident individual who's able to go into markets and go into spaces and confidently speak out and speak aloud. So I think for me, there's a lot that we need to do, but I think it goes to the fact that we need to empower ourselves as individuals, number one, so that when we go back home to our families, we're able to empower our kids, our sons, our daughters, our nieces, our nephews, and our siblings. That's the first. And then in the workplace, it's important that we, as leaders in the workplace, in various business institutions, that we give voice to our employees as well, so that they know that their voices are heard. and to put the mantle on them so that they're able to lead the charge in various product launches, product development, and on various business initiatives that are going into different spaces. And I think that's part of the way in which we can start to inculcate a culture of leadership and taking accountability in the various spaces that we operate in.
Now, Bulelani, these are challenging times as the world is stumbling from one crisis into the next. What is your advice for future leaders in terms of challenges? What are some of the biggest challenges they should expect to encounter in their career and hopefully overcome?
You know what? It goes without saying, if there's one thing that's definitely guaranteed in one's career and journey is challenges. Challenges will forever be there, especially as a leader. Majority of our time is spent planning for the future and also then extinguishing fires that arise. And I think when you sort of look at the past 3 years with COVID, with the lockdowns, with load shedding and all these things, some of these challenges are mostly challenges that are beyond one's control, right? And I think at the end of the day, it's to have the foresight as a leader to have the agility, right? I think training your team to have agility instead of them faffing around how the situation is not good. Well, if the situation is not good, chances are it's not going to change by complaining. It just means that so the only time the situation is going to change is when we find alternate solutions, right? And I think that's the type of mindset, as leaders that we then need to then have, in working through the challenges, because sometimes, challenges aren't going to change. And sometimes some things don't move unless we move. And I think it's important that we then inculcate a culture within our teams of the type of leadership that says that when faced with a challenge, you don't flight, but you fight. And fighting doesn't necessarily mean that you go into it ignorantly. It means that you go into it with humility, with understanding, with the right stakeholders behind your back, and you go into the ring and you make sure that you fight for what is yours.
Right. Now, Bulelani, if you were to design a curriculum for future leaders, what are maybe one or two key skills you would want to factor in?
I think number one, definitely for me, goes without saying, grab the bull by the horns, I don't know what I'd call that force, but, take the charge, be on the offensive. Nothing is going to come to you. Go out there and get it. If you're waiting for the RFQ to go out, if you're waiting for the request for proposals, if you're waiting for someone to call the meeting, that meeting might not ever come. But you need to be the one who goes out there and proposes new ideas, proposes new thinking, proposes new products to the market. So you're consistently out there and you're putting yourself out there. That's the one. The second part for me would be, to inculcate a mindset within leaders in this curriculum that says, it's important for you to follow up. No one owes you, even if their job and their position in whatever department that they're in is they are liable for small business, but operate in a zero sum, in a zero base that says that they don't owe me anything and it's my job to follow up with them. And it's my job to make sure that things actually happen for myself. What that then does is that it puts you in a position where you're holistically holding yourself accountable and your team is also then holding themselves accountable and no one is waiting for anything to happen to them, but we are all making things happen for ourselves each and every day and every moment.
Now, Bulelani, as a mentor to so many future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
Sure, man. There's been so many, but I mean, I'll tell you now. There's a young gentleman by the name of Tebato Ranko, who runs a business called the Comfort Zone Eatery, which is based out, in one of the communities in Tembisa now. This young man, when I met him, was still in high school, finishing off his matric, had no plans of going to varsity because there were no resources or funds for him, was able to get mentorship and guidance. And from that, he started his business. And today he's doing extremely well. I was at his business actually 2 weeks ago, having seen him in over a year. And I mean, it was impressive to see what he's done in the past 5 years. He's one of many other young individuals that are doing extremely well in the various spaces. And I think for me, I don't necessarily take the credit to say it was me, but it was beautiful to look back and say one contributed that 1 little percent that I contributed, but all the effort was definitely all them in making their dreams come to pass.
And Bulelani, looking back over your own leadership career, are there any role models of leadership that you have encountered and maybe worked with that you would recommend future leaders should learn from?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I look at different types of leadership. I mean, for instance, definitely inspired at some point by one of my mentors, Bulelani, who's the founder of MoFi and amongst many other things, right? And I think his leadership style was an interesting one. Why at one moment, is a township guy with flavor, with flair. The next moment is in a boardroom and speaking the jargon and is dressed the right way. And he knows how to maneuver in different spaces and knows how to interact with someone who's unemployed. At the very same time, he knows how to interact with billionaires. And I think that skill is sort of essential because it keeps your hand on the pulse of the country that you actually live in so that you don't operate in a level of ignorance on any given day and moment in time. And then I sort of look at your leadership style of your Elon Reyes, who's the founder of Race Corp, in terms of how he has maneuvered in the market space and dealt with challenges and obstacles and found his way and his voice within the market, then you can't help but look back and look at that and think, wow, that is such a powerful way to maneuver. And I mean, I can't, to date, I'm sort of looking at, the leadership style of, interestingly enough, Elon Musk, even though he said that he doesn't have any emotions, but the ability to walk into an organization like a Twitter and immediately just slam your hand down and shift the culture, has its negatives and its positive. But that sort of resolute leadership to say we're going in that direction, it doesn't matter what anyone else is saying, there's something to be said about that.
Now, Bulelani, where can our listeners follow you and how can they connect with you?
No, man. I mean, anyone wants to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, right? Every week I release a news article talking about how the township economy and corporate South Africa can work together to build an inclusive economic future. And I'm also on every other social media platform as well, where I put out a lot of content for small businesses, like your LinkedIn, sorry, not LinkedIn, LinkedIn as well as Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok as well. You can find me there where I put out quite a number of videos to impact and support small businesses.
And last but not least, Bulelani, what is your advice for the millions of learners who are looking to finish school, to start a career? What are maybe one or two success factors that they should consider?
I think for me, the most important thing is believe in yourself. Believe your own hype. You are definitely everything you think you are. And you are definitely worthy of everything that you think or you've thought of and you are actually dreaming of, because no one was born to stand on the sidelines and watch other people walk up and down the red carpet of life. But all of us were born to participate in the game of life. So my biggest thing to you is start and don't overthink the start and wait for it to be perfect. Learn as you move along. That's the process of iteration. It's like the Thomas Edison quotations around, he didn't fail 1,000 times, but he found 1,000 ways how not to make a light bulb. So take that sort of ideology into the growth and start of your own journey and also the start of your own business, right? And I think for me, apply and adopt a learn fast, fail fast model, because the longer you delay and the longer you take is the longer it takes you to figure out what's actually meant for you and what's not meant for you. So the quicker you iterate and the quicker you work on aligning yourself with your purpose and goals, the quicker you learn the things that you're not supposed to be doing. But most importantly for me, the big one is go out there and get things done. Show up for opportunities because majority of the people who get opportunities get them because they show up. So show up with confidence and show up prepared.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bulelani, for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership and reminding us that we need to learn fast, we need to fail fast, and most importantly, we need to get things done.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Nick.